Good morning, little Bailey. Good morning, little Bailey. You're a baby. Good morning, Pastor Ken of the New Life Church. Good morning. Wearing my Bailey hat today. What does that say? Bailey Harbor, Door County. Much fun. A lot of fun in... why does a dog stand in... Look at this. Bailey, you're standing in a puddle. It's dry all around and you're just standing in a puddle. I don't get it. Alright, maybe because he's listening to me record. Let's keep walking, puppy. Let's keep walking. Okay, we'll see a little Bailey Harbor there. So, I'm my daily walks with God and dog. We're back at the Forest Preserve. It's beautiful. Let's get a shot of the Forest Preserve early morning. It's probably about, what time is it? It's like 6:30. It's almost 7 o'clock. We're at the Forest Preserve. Pretty good. One side COVID is ending, and see that porta potty. It used to be locked up with COVID. You couldn't use it, but now they opened it up. So the Forest Preserve is getting less COVID restrictions. So anyway, me and Bailey walking the dog, and recently I went to Bailey Harbor in Door County. It was great. You know, got this hat just because it was named after my dog. Is that sad? Yeah, it is kind of sad. But so you jump right into the message, so to speak. So daily walks with God and dog. So it occurs to me that cooperation, I was reading in Acts about the first century church. Acts of the Epistles, Paul's letter, Acts. A lot of people read that. That in Timothy is about the early church and the formation of the early organization, which became the church. So a lot of modern organizations look to that for clues and a model for a modern church. And in the early church, they shared all things, you know, and they became this big extended family of shared resources, which gave them a huge advantage to the non-Christians that didn't do that. Although many other non-Christians did do that, there was other groups, you know, affiliated over other religions and large families and tribes. Basically, Christianity became a tribe. And in the early days, you know, it started out a few people, you know, 12 apostles, 12 disciples, and then grew to a few hundred people, to a few thousand people, until finally, this is not exactly in Acts, but until finally it became the accepted religion of the Roman Empire, and that, of course, blasted it around the world and made it the huge religion that it is now, which is a miracle in itself, because something like that could happen in such a relatively short time of about 1,000 years, from 12 people to millions of people to now a billion of people, maybe billions, on some estimates, but over 1 billion people now. Unbelievable. And that's what I'm thinking the message will be on today, is the early how to start a tribe. I'm trying to make my church and this webpage be a tribe, and what I mean by that is an extended family that shares resources, that helps each other with knowledge. I was on another video about God's economy. You'll see this on the page. Is that I mentioned that one of the ways the Western world is so much richer and more technologically advanced than the non-Western world is that they started tribes. They started villages that grew larger. They grew food faster. They used horses to augment human manpower, and they grew so much food they became a large village, a large city. Then eventually, all that sharing of information and knowledge gave the Western world an advantage. because it boosted their technological advantage. Then, wow, a real. I got to step down here. Ooh, okay, we're still walking around. Where's Bailey? Where's my dog? Disappeared on me. There's Bailey. Come here, Bailey. Sorry about that. Anyway, gave the West a technological advantage by sharing information and resources. Well, I want the church to do that to a smaller extent, but to a significant extent. And it occurs to me that the early church, they shared food, they shared lodging, they shared everything. Now, I'm not exactly talking about a commune. I'm not talking about some 1960s commune, although some people in the 60s especially, they interpreted it that way, that as that's part of the commune movement. They were saying some of them were saying we're patterning ourselves after the early Christian church, which to an extent is true, but none of the communes have survived, and none of them have made it. The reason why is because sharing everything in common is good to an extent, but there has to be, especially in America, especially in modern day, because we grew up in a different way than the earlier generations, in that we're more aggressive, more savvy, more entrepreneurial. As a country, we're kind of losing that. We've gotten so wealthy and so large that we're starting to miss a step a little bit here and there, but it's miss a step from way on the mountaintop of being the most powerful country in history. That's quite an accomplishment. We blast our society and social values around the world and convert other countries to our way of dress and speaking, and kind of made English the world language and the dollar the world currency. And so no other country's ever been that powerful. So yeah, we missed a step here and there, but it's from such a height. We were just talking about the Roman Empire. Even the Roman Empire never became that powerful. But so what I'm saying is that a commune hasn't worked because sharing and share alike, share everything. It works until people start to say, hey, Joe over here is getting stuff he's not working. How come I'm working 10 hours a day in the field and this guy's sitting at home? What's that about? And he gets something. And actually that's kind of happening in Western society and in European society, where the producers are starting to sort of say, they're starting to look across the tracks or across the street and say, how come I'm killing myself working and only to pay taxes and then pay for that guy over there stuff? I don't get it. In a modern day vernacular, he's watching cable all day and I'm working all day. What's this? So it works to a point, and as long as there's an equity of distribution. So the most successful communes, I was just watching a documentary about American Commune. It's called American Commune, and it says that the most successful communes in America anyway, they kind of adopted a capitalistic view as well. As they shared everything alike, they became an extended family, but people started kind of grumping, groaning when there seemed to be inequity in distribution, that people weren't contributing as much, but they were getting, in view of the group, they were getting a disproportionate share of the shared resources without contributing, and that's a value judgment. That's more for this little 10-minute video to go into. But I want my church to be not a 1960s commune where everybody sits around and makes knits sweaters and hums music and kind of a 1960s thing, playing a little guitar. Although that would be kind of cool for a weekend, I don't think it'd be cool for a year or two. More of a quasi business entity like the successful communes. So more about that later. I'm just fleshing out that idea. It's an early stage of reading Acts in the early church, and what's a way to provide for the group in an equitable manner. What would be the model? America is the most successful economy ever in history. So that's a successful model, but it has its downsides. There's winners and there's losers in every model. So how do I soften the edges of capitalism without losing the motivation and drive? Fiendishly clever, the profit motive, the self-interest. Using some of man's basest motivations of greed and self-aggrandizement to propel the whole society. It's never been done to this extent, and it's never been so successful. So the group would have to have that idea prevalent. And it seems like the communist countries, you guys in the comments, you can, maybe you're more knowledgeable on this aspect, but it seems like communist countries and the collective socialist and communist countries, they lack that profit motive, and the medium of exchange is more political power or military power. And that doesn't seem to be a long-term strategy. That has never succeeded in history, to my knowledge. Long term, it's doomed to fail. I lived through the fall of the Soviet Union, or the collapse of the Soviet Union, and that was a world power, a superpower that stumbled and fell, and that it fell, I think, because of that. It's a larger commune, basically. Everybody was sharing resources, okay, and they were being distributed by some committee or some group. I don't think anybody's smart enough to distribute resources properly. Governments ultimately fail in doing that. They succeed for a while, but then and dictators, same thing. El Duce in Italy and Adolf Hitler. They tried to command economy, make decisions on who gets what, and it's sometimes it had spectacular success, but ultimately it's a spectacular failure in given enough time. So that's that. I don't want to have a short-term success. I want to have a long-term success. How do I share the resources equitably? How do I preserve the motivation to do great things and for the great producers feel that they're being rewarded properly and commensurate to their contribution, and everyone is satisfied? That's a Gordian's knot that I'm trying to wrestle with right now, as far as making that. But it's only theory right now, because my little church, we only got a handful of members, so it's far from a large commune, and it's far from being a capitalist engine of success for the group. It's just this little group, but I want to put in place best practices now. So I have an MBA, Master's in Business. I've studied systems. It seems it has to be an enlightened business. The church has to be an enlightened business. There has to be a mechanism for rewarding those that do great things for the church, and a mechanism for distributing those equitably to those that need them in a way that doesn't cripple them. That's the other thing we can talk about in other videos. And I maybe had too much coffee this morning because it's going a little long, and so I'll wrap it up. Where giving to people generation after generation, that was not the plan. The plan with welfare and other type of systems was to help people, give them a leg up to be productive members of society, and accidentally unintended consequences is it's kept people down. It's kept people at a low ebb, giving them subsistence amount, but not enough to actually rise out of their situation. And so people grow up on the dole and die on the dole, and their kids grow up on the dole and die on the dole, and their grandkids, and so on and so on. So that's not right. That's not good. That's not good for anybody. So we have to somehow come up with something. So these are my musings of this morning and of the last few months. I'm trying to build a tribe that is the most equitable and the most productive large family that you could have here in the imperfect world on Earth. Tell me your thoughts. How should a church be structured? How do we imitate the success of communes, sharing everything in common like the early church, and the very most successful long-term communes that have a bit of a capitalist germ in them as well, and how do we imitate the successful systems of the West and not have the failures of the past with some other systems like in the mid-century Italy and Germany, how that kind of collapsed and then it rose back up, so in a new way, in a new fashion. Pastor Ken signing off, and until tomorrow.